No, you're not seeing double. I really genuinely am doing another Plagueis deck. 2 weeks in a row. I'll even do you one more. This basically is the same deck as what I did last week. But the reason I'm doing it again is we've made a couple changes. Like a lot of changes. I wouldn't actually be doing it if it was, like 5, 6 cards, whatever. But I played the deck a lot more since last week. And like fundamentally, there were some cards that just had to get out of there. But also, fundamentally, I learned how to play the game correctly. So as you've noticed, I've been using a lot of Naruto CCG, like kind of my favorite card game of all time. And so a lot of that information has been just I've been relying on it on how to play this game. But as it turns out, no. There are some pretty deep big changes that affect the way the game plays. So I think I mentioned before how I learned like every card is non-unique unless otherwise stated, as in you are perfectly capable of controlling 2 iron scraps at the same time. But there's an additional thing. When you send teams out to attack or block, you can rearrange the order of the team. That isn't exclusive to your own organization phase. In fact, your organization phase is more or less just putting 3 people together in no particular order. They only have a lead and supports when they're sent out to attack or block. And you get to pick it every time they do it, so you can rearrange it. But anyway, that changes a lot. Primarily this guy, who I thought was just unbelievably busted as he currently stands, using the logic that a character in a team by itself is inherently the lead character of that team. However, when you put someone in play, they're in a team by themselves, so they're inherently a leading character. So basically, the way I've been playing this card in my house is it's just unbelievably cracked. Like, it was degenerate. Basically negates all effects at all times, except for when you finally teamed up someone and put them as a support, and then they're not negated anymore. Not how he works. So this is really only relevant in battle. It's still an okay card. See, it's pink sleeve. That's my sideboard sleeve. So he's still in the sideboard. He's still alright. But he is not the god he once was. But that's not the only, change that happened to the deck here. So I'll get into it. So we're running 3 iron scraps. This guy's still just as good as he always was. This guy is crazy and fantastic. And you want to play a playset of him. Let me put him upside down so I don't actually have to reorganize this later. Ugh, disgusting unfinished playset. It's foil at least, but ugh. These are misprint though. They have a 1-drop. She is a 0-drop though. But Matilda, I don't know why I wasn't using this. This card's just really good. It's basically always a 3/3. So your 0-drop being a 3/3 is really good in this game. And now medical or medicine, I think it's medicine, is a relevant attribute in this deck. That matters. So there's 3 of her that matters. Now the big cut, let me grab him so that, because I know I'm not going to add a graphic in here, so might as well snag one while I'm talking about it. This is probably controversial, but Nightshade is a really strong card that I'm not running because, as you see, our final 2 0-drops are just the 2 Nanami that, I think 2 Nanami is just Toonami. You should put these in your deck. You should play this card. But anyhow, Nightshade, right? This guy's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he has a place in the deck anymore. And the reasoning is you actively use your discard pile. And this was the only card that really cared about the number of cards in your discard pile. So there were a lot of awkward situations where I didn't want to descale my Nightshade, but I also wanted to do something, and it just kept coming up and up and up. And really, realistically, he only pretty much ever gets to +4/+4. And so, yeah, he has a really good combat value, but his support value is almost always the same as Matilda's, except Matilda's, gets to 3 support by turn 2. This dude takes, 5-6 turns to get there. And, combat's easier to come by, so just have better head ninja and just get this dude out of there. That was my logic. That's what happened. So we cut Nightshades for Matilda, because I think she's ultimately better. Anyhow, playset of Bartholomew. This guy was really good. I'd say he's even better than I thought he was going to be. Like him a lot. Good guy. Get you energy. Someone to spend some energy. 2 Buckeye. He's in here to kind of offset the fact that Nightshade's gone, so we need a bit of early combat value, and he's like got good stats. His effect is not that relevant. I can't even lie. Maybe late game, but early on, like, never going to use it. So he's a way you can banish Drafikis, which you'll see later. But that's about it. Oh, hey. Why did I say you'll see him later? This guy's great. This dude is just really good. Believe it or not, his first effect, not so much. It's more or less that he's just a free card draw later. Get him in your discard, and you never really play him, and you just hope to expel him from your discard. Or expel him from anywhere, but like realistically discard. Because I cut the Pleaguis Reapers. That was another card. It did not work out. I don't know why people are playing that card. It was poopy doo-doo bad. Experimenter. This guy was really good. I don't know why I wasn't using him. Great with Drafiki. He's got a really long-winded effect, but he's awesome, and he's medicine. So, matters again. Apollos was in the sideboard. I'm just mainboarding him because there was nothing in the 3 or 4 drop slot that looked like any good for this deck. So, screw it. Apollos times 2. He's got decent stats. He's valid. He's medicine.
Again, that's relevant. We'll get back to that shortly.
This ain't changed. Belleros is just a 3 of. I don't know why you'd run less than 3 of this guy. There's literally no reason to run less than 3 of him. Mastrone, I did cut one of these. Had to make room somewhere for some of these cards. Mastrone is really good. Actually, I think I'm still playing the 3rd one in the sideboard just as like in the mirror match. Super extended reach. It's a very strong card. Zoladar. This dude is still a 3 of course. This guy is great. He is the second half to Belleros in that he's great. Belleros is great. They love each other. This is kind of unproven, but I'm trying it out. Fascisco is just a 1 of. Because every single character in your deck except... Oh, no, that's inclusive. They just can't take damage. Just every single character, except Nanami, except your Little Mermaid. Every single person just can't take damage. During the showdown. I should say you can get hit with abilities, but, you know, or effects, but yeah. That's pretty good. Just as a 1 of, I don't think he's necessary to win the game, but he certainly makes you win the game once he hits the board. Pleaguis Aid. This was in the sideboard before. I'm just mainboarding 2 of them now because this deck got so close to milling itself like almost every single game to the point where I was like, you know what, fuck it. And at worst, on turn 1, you can cycle it. Dashing Kinku. This card we were not using. We were using Call of the Crow, the other searcher. This one turns out to be better. I was wrong. This one feels better. The other Call of the Crow requires you to discard a card as part of its cost. You do get to search 2 people, but this one comes down a turn sooner, and it's just a little bit more reliable. Getting your discard filled is really easy thanks to Necropolis, which I talked about in the previous video, but here that is. Good field card, self-mill, get stuff back from your grave, fun time. This card, I was right about. Everyone should play this in Pleaguis. This card's just sick. Not really any drawback. This card's self-evident why it's strong. Early game lets you stall. This deck, I should mention that. This deck pops off on turn 5. Belleros hits the board, now you're playing. But up until that point, you are generally struggling. This stalls your struggle tremendously. This is only a 2 of because we, again, kept getting close to milling out. So, boom. Just 2 Pleaguis Mercy. It's a great card, but I don't think I want to run the playset of it. Card that I wasn't using before again. Pleaguis Obscurity. This card is really good and kind of like the only card in the game I think that can offset an Irresistible Rapture, although it is kind of hard to use it early game effectively. But you pick 5 cards in your discard pile, your opponent, with different names, should add that, your opponent randomly chooses one of them. If the chosen card is a character that you could put in play, because you mean its turn count, do that. Otherwise, it goes to your hand. So, let you cheat someone into play, maybe as early as turn 3, or at worst, it just reanimates something out of your graveyard. So it's a pretty good card as a 2 of. Into the abilities where everything's a 2 of. 2 Micromon Shield. I think the third one's in the sideboard. I think that's the case for a lot of these cards. Just so you can customize it game 2 and 3. But yeah, Micromon Shield's fantastic card. 2 Pleaguis Identity. The reason we're doing a 2-2 split here, I generally prefer Micromon Shield, but because we have a Polis in the main board, we gotta run Pleaguis Identity now, as it's a named Pleaguis ability that he can trigger. And Pleaguis Syringe, the only other ability he can use that'll trigger him, but I still think it's kind of worth it. It's a bit of a reach, but at the same time, low risk, really high reward. This card's sick. It doesn't combo with Apollos as well as I think it should, but it is a good card. If you have him out, you can get 2 or an injure and a damage out there on different people. You can pick the same person, but the way the abilities order is you're going to do the damage, then injure, so I would not do that. There's your Chain 101 for today. Plagueis Rapture. I don't know if we had 3 or 2 originally, but the third one's in the sideboard, I'm sure, again. This card's really good. It's a late game card, and it's kind of expensive because Belleros and Mastrone are going to eat up all your mana. Pretty much once they hit the board, they're just going to use their abilities every turn without fail. So that is the new, and you can see, very different Plagueis deck. Sideboard. There's a Scramble that was in the deck originally. He's really good still, but not as good as I thought he was. Mastrone. Alright, sideboard's very different too, so that kind of counts as a big change. Dr. Royale run a playset of for several different matchups. So first, up against Mill, just put all 3 of them in. You win. Up against the mirror match, shuffle your opponent's discard in on like turn 4, right before they go into Belleros and everything. Probably going to win that game too. Or in any general match, just use it to keep yourself alive if your self-mill's going too far. Or if you have an opponent that oddly has a ton of ability cards in their deck, which I don't see that being the case, but you never know. Well, this card could get you some value there. So that's pretty cool. The next card, which is probably a main board level card that I should be running, but the strategies are kind of tight as is. Maybe the Necro First Aid or whatever. 3 Blackwing Wings. This card's really disgusting. I don't know why I thought it was bad before. Maybe because the art's kind of cringe. I don't know, I find it cringy. Matilda, what's going on, man? Well, anyway, what's going on is only Necro characters can be sent out to attack. So the turn you play it, doesn't do anything because it's, your turn. Then it comes to your opponent. During your opponent's strategy phase, they can discard 2 cards to discard this strategy. That's pretty cool. Ripping 2 cards out of your opponent's hand is not really an effect that you can do in this game. Obviously, they get to consent to it, but if they don't consent to it, there's 2 turns where they're not attacking. So, against an aggro deck that has low resources, this is like they dumped all their resources, basically. Choosing between attacking for 2 turns or losing 2 cards in their hand are, like, horrible conditions to have to pick between. So yeah, that's cool. I mean, I guess they can discard it on the second turn, but then you're really losing value. Dragonic Graveyard, just put this in against dragons. You don't really need to read it, but you just win. And then the one-ofs all the abilities that could be playsets. I don't think the 3rd Syringe would ever go in. The reason, and you don't really want to put all 6 of these in, but you can customize your ratios. Yeah, that's Plagueis again. Sorry to rip you all off. I will possibly surprise you with a free video tomorrow as compensation, because this really doesn't count as 2 videos. Yeah, this is the same exact deck. You're not seeing double. I just learned how to play. See ya.